In Italy, it's known as Involtini di melanzane, or to put it another way, little eggplant bundles. Call them what you want, I'm gonna call them delicious. This is Kitchen Serious. If there's one annoying part about eggplant, it's that most recipes will call for you to salt it and let it rest for around 45 minutes to draw out the bitterness as well as excess water. Unfortunately, this is one of those old school techniques that never really adjusted to modern times. As Harold McGee points out in his glorious book on food and cooking, the bitterness traits of eggplants have been significantly reduced through selective breeding methods, making this much less of an issue than it once was. The excess water is actually the real issue here, since the flesh is made up of millions of tiny air-filled compartments enclosed by water-fortified walls. If you try to fry it without getting rid of some of that water beforehand, well, two things happen. First, those air sacs flood with oil, making the eggplant greasy. Secondly, when heat turns that water into steam, some of it will become trapped and eventually force its way out, damaging the structure. So to sum up, not dealing with all the water will turn this into an oily, mushy mess. So you know what? Screw the frying. Instead, we're going to bake our eggplant slices for half an hour rather than the oil bath. You'll lose that water while also retaining the meaty goodness of the eggplant without that squishy, oily texture. So as you've been watching, we've been preparing our eggplant by cutting the top and bottom off and giving it a peel. Then I'm going to slice them lengthwise into half-inch planks. Throw them on a couple trays, brush with oil, and make sure to salt and pepper each side. I just use a spray olive oil, it's a whole lot easier. So these are going to bake for 15 minutes, flip them over, and go another 15 minutes. The beauty of this recipe is we can make our tomato sauce while the eggplant is cooking. This is my favorite quick, weeknight, go-to tomato sauce recipe. Full disclosure, I will be heavy-handed with my CRP as well as garlic. But for normal people, just use like a couple cloves of garlic and a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flake. Please do yourself a favor. No, do yourself two favors. One, never buy the pre-chopped garlic. The stuff is crap. Secondly, get yourself a garlic press. Oh my god. And no, I don't work for a garlic press company. You still need to peel these, but peeling garlic is not bad, you guys. Just give it a smash with a hammer, the bottom of a pan, the side of your knife. It doesn't really matter. Once they're smashed, grab them by the tail, give them a little wiggle, and out they come. Now throw them in the press and you're good to go. So we'll start by sauteing our garlic for about 20 to 30 seconds before adding our oregano and our red pepper flake. This is known as blooming your spices, and it really amps up the flavor. When making tomato sauce, I find that using whole tomatoes that are crushed by hand the best. It gives the sauce a nice chunky rustic texture and bursts of flavor whenever you hit the big pieces of tomato. And these break down a lot faster than diced tomatoes because of the calcium chloride that's added in the canning process. Pierce the side with your thumb and slowly squeeze out the juice first. Don't just start squeezing, trust me. Most of the time, I don't need to add salt or pepper to this sauce because the eggplant is going to bring plenty of that. Now we're going to add one of my favorite Italian ingredients, and that's balsamic vinegar. Just going to go with about a quarter cup here, but it brings such a great sweetness to the sauce. I can't make my tomato sauce without it, but if you don't like it, feel free to omit it. Now cover it and reduce your heat to simmer, and this is going to hang out while we make our filling. Ricotta cheese is used in many versions of Involtini. The problem is, it tends to dry out and have this kind of crumbly, overcooked meat texture, and we want to keep this creamy, so we're going to take a page out of a French cookbook and make a sort of panade, which is traditionally breadcrumbs soaked in milk to add moisture to whatever you're cooking, usually meat. We just need one piece of bread here, and I gotta be honest, I finally found a use for the heel. In it goes, and it turns into some really beautiful breadcrumbs. Since these are fresh, we can just add them right into the filling, which is a cup of whole milk ricotta, a quarter cup of pecorino romano, around a tablespoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice, about half a dozen or so basil leaves chopped up. I like to save a few for the garnish at the end, and my secret filling ingredient that is, well, a secret no longer, a touch of nutmeg. Once your eggplant is out of the oven and cooled, they're now ready to stuff and roll. A lot of eggplant are shaped like bowling pins where they're narrow on one end and get really fat on the other. When I'm picking these out, I try to find two as uniform as possible. And I found two beauties. As you're about to see, it makes filling and rolling a whole lot easier. For the sake of explaining, I'm going to call the fatter end the bottom. Now give each piece a nice spread of filling about 2/3 of the way up. You want to reserve that top third for the filling to expand into once you roll it. Now put all these seam side down into the sauce. I'm also going to hit it with a little pecorino romano. And if you really want to cheese it up, you can sprinkle some mozzarella on there. If you have an oven-safe pan like I have here, I'm going to put the entire thing in the oven and let it bake for around 15 minutes or so on 350. And it's been about 15 minutes, and here it is. It smells terrible. No, I'm just kidding. It smells unbelievable, as you might imagine. So that is it, you guys. Eggplant Involtini. And as promised, here is your shopping list. So if you decide to make this, hit me down below in the comments. I want to know how it turned out for you. Thanks for checking out Kitchen Serious. I'll see you next time.